everyone, my name is Nicole Henderson and I'm studying Parks and Recreation as my topic of study this year. The quote that I chose is, "Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time, and vision with action can change the world." I chose this because I believe that both vision and action are very important elements when it comes to Parks and Recreation, so I want to learn throughout the year how to apply both of those together to get the biggest benefit out of what I'm learning and the information that I gain. I'm going to start off to just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a senior here at Frisco High School. I grew up in Springfield, Missouri. I didn't move to Frisco until halfway through my sophomore year. I was homeschooled up until 8th grade. 8th grade was my very first year in public school, so that was a huge transition, but I've learned a lot from the experience. I've got a very, very different perspective than most people do. I have two little sisters. One is Jordan, and she's on the right, and she's in 6th grade this year, and Caitlin is on the left, and she's in 4th grade this year. One of my hobbies or interests that I'm currently really interested in is learning foreign languages. I had taken several Spanish classes throughout the years, so I'm just continuing learning that. And then this year I am in a Mandarin Chinese course, and I absolutely love it. It's super fun, and the language is just super interesting. And I'm also currently trying to teach myself French, which is very difficult, but I have two friends who are fluent. I also work at the Frisco Athletic Center. I started working there in November, and I'll tell you more about that because it's actually related to my ISM journey. My topic of study, as I have said, is Parks and Recreation, and for those of you who are wondering, no, it's not because of the TV show. I get asked that constantly. People are always wondering if it's because of the TV show that I chose my topic, but it's really not. It all started whenever I heard about the ISM program. I got really interested in it, and I was taking AP Human Geography at the time. And I was learning about human and environmental interaction, and I came across the topic of urban planning. And I decided that was what I was going to study for ISM, so at the beginning of the year, that's what I started with. But the more I learned about urban planning, the more I realized it wasn't really for me. It's more bigger picture, and it's 10, 20 years into the future for projects. And I don't really like that because it's not as tangible, and I like more successes that I can really see accomplished. So then I stumbled across Parks and Recreation, and I saw that their projects are more every year things are getting accomplished and things are getting continued or started, and there's always something going on and always keeping you busy. So I really liked it, and the more research I did and the more mentorship time that I spent, I decided that construction and design of parks was more specifically what I wanted to focus on. My very first interview was with Mr. Brian Bristow. He's the Assistant Director at the City of Allen Parks and Recreation Department. So from the interview, I learned a lot about the different variety of elements that are involved in Parks and Recreation. At first, I was really scared of having to do a career where it's only focused on one specific thing, because I'm really interested in so many different topics like history, science, art. And in Parks and Recreation, you deal with all of those things all the time, and you're constantly learning new things. So that really excited me. I also learned about the wide range of projects. Typically, I thought it was just going to be building traditional parks and trails, but actually they deal with that as well as memorials and historical sites, such as they found a dam recently in Allen that they didn't know about. So they just recently discovered it, and they're building a whole historical site around that. They also have to deal with things such as the bird populations in Allen. Last year they were struggling with this one flock of birds that settled in this one little residential neighborhood, and constantly the Parks Department were getting complaints from it, so they had to send out people to analyze the movements and patterns of the birds so that they could prevent it for next year. So that really opened my eyes to how diverse the Parks and Recreation Department was. I also learned that all the staff have really different backgrounds, so everyone has different knowledge that they can bring to the table, whether it be landscape architecture or finance or business. So I learned a lot from that interview. My second interview was with Mr. Dudley Raymond. He's the Planning and Business Development Manager for the City of Frisco Parks and Rec Department. Basically, his job is focused on long-range planning for parks 2 to 5 years in the future, which isn't too bad. His job is to kind of decide what land they're going to use, pick out where it's going to be placed, and consider what the residents want and need in the future. He also is in charge of hiring contractors, which I'll talk about that process here in a little bit. Also, I asked him what his biggest sacrifice of working for the government was, and he said that he gets less respect for his job and less pay. He could be working his same job at a private firm and be getting a much larger sum of money, but he chooses to work for the Parks and Rec Department because of the opportunity to serve his community. And I thought that was really inspiring about how passionate he was about helping people and really having a way to give his own input into the community and build it up. The third interview is with Mr. Rick Wieland. He's the Parks and Recreation Director for Frisco, and he oversees both the recreation and the park side, whereas the first two people I interviewed were more focused on the park side. He his position is basically centered around management, so he does a lot of paperwork, he conducts meetings, and he oversees individuals within the department that are under him. He doesn't really get to spend much time looking at the projects and really interacting with them firsthand, which was kind of something that I would prefer to do in a job position. But he says that his favorite part was the family atmosphere there. He said everyone that he had, because he has the best staff he could possibly ask for, they all put in as much team effort and their best effort for absolutely every project, and he said that makes his job super enjoyable. He gave me a really, really good advice on the fact that I should develop knowledge in all 3 areas of the department rather than just focusing on parks or recreation. And those 3 sections are parks, recreation, and maintenance. Maintenance is a very, very key role of the department that's really not recognized as much as it should be, because they're the ones who basically help upkeep the projects that parks and recreation create and develop. Without them, lawns wouldn't be mowed, landscaping wouldn't be kept up, things wouldn't be trimmed, things wouldn't look as nice as they did. So they're very, very important, and I believe that they should get more recognition than they already do. The 4th interview that I did was with Miss Marcy Jones, and she's the Recreation Service Manager for the City of Frisco. She basically oversees employees at the Frisco Athletic Center and the Senior Center, and she also oversees like citywide events such as like the Frosty 5K, Mary Main Street, those things. She really talked about how upbeat her work environment was and how enthusiastic it was, and just talking to her I could see how passionate she was about what she did, and it made me really excited. She talked a lot about customer service. She's very, very much passionate about the people who come in and the community. And some of the advice she gave me was to get job experience and to do more research like what I'm doing in ISM. Whenever I met with her, she gave me a tour of the Frisco Athletic Center, which that's a picture of it right there. And throughout the tour, I got to meet a lot of the staff, and she inspired me to actually apply for a job there, and that's now where I work. The people who actually interviewed me recognized me from when I came in and interviewed Miss Marcy Jones, and I think that's partially why I got the job. So that was really exciting, and it was very, very beneficial both for this experience and for just a work environment. Another thing that really stuck out to me about her is how genuinely she cares about people. I asked her what her favorite part of the job was, and she said getting to see people happy and feel like they're involved and feel like they're important in the community. And that really blew me away, because all the people I've met are all so passionate about other people. One other piece of advice she shared with me is that I have to love what I do. And if you love what you do, then it's all worth it in the end. My 5th interview is with Mr. Kyle LaFerny. He's the Parks Project Manager of the City of Frisco, and he's basically in charge of overseeing bigger projects. He goes and inspects the contractor's work and makes sure that everything's getting constructed on time and accurately. He has really, really diverse knowledge in construction and design because he previously worked for a private firm, and through that knowledge he's able to point out errors in projects and errors in construction and be able to provide alternative solutions to the issues that are presented. From him, I learned that landscape architecture makes up 90% of parks. And that really surprised me because I didn't really think about landscape architecture, but as soon as he told me that, I realized how big of a deal it really was, and it made me a lot more interested in it. His work environment is basically half in the office and half on project sites outdoors, which made me really excited because that's exactly what I would look for in a job, with that balance. And some of the advice he gave me was that being able to take criticism with an open mind can be difficult because design is such a personal thing. It's something that you create in your own mind, and when people criticize it, then sometimes it can be hard to take, but it's actually really beneficial, and that's a skill I need to build, is to learn how to be able to take criticism and not take it negatively. Here's a quote that I took from our interview. He said, "When the problem gets solved and no one knows that you were there and involved, that means your job was a success. So when I build something, everyone talks about how nice it looks. But if it's messed up, they actually try to find who did it so they can have someone fix it. So if no one hears anything, I've done a fantastic job." This blew me away, and it made me super interested because it's so accurate. We go to parks and we see all these things around us all the time, and we never think about who built this or who came up with this idea. And their whole goal is to make everything look intentional. You have no idea how many mistakes that they make on everything all the time. Things get messed up and don't go as planned, but in the end, it all looks intentional, and that's their whole goal. So I chose Mr. Kyle to be my mentor because I felt like I connected with him very well, and I felt like his knowledge was really the expertise in area that I wanted to focus on. Basically, our mentor visits consist of visiting project sites, looking through plans, and discussing final products. I've gotten to go to the expansion on the Frisco Athletic Center where they're going to have the outdoor water parks. I've gotten to see that become developed. I've also gotten to go to the finalized Veterans Memorial in Frisco Commons and compare that to the plants that they originally had and get it, like, point out all the mistakes that the contractors made and have to come fix. And I've also gotten to go see some community parks that are getting developed behind Independence High School. One of the biggest things I hear over and over and over from everyone in the workplace is that you must always be able to defend your design. You have to explain, like, why you put a path in a certain place and why you chose this type of bush or this type of tree. You always have to be able to defend every single thing that you do. Also, I've been learning through my independent research that environmental interaction is extremely beneficial to all of us in the community. It improves our psychological, mental, physical, and social health in many, many different ways. And so that really also opened up my eyes to how important the Parks Department is to the community. The other thing that I really learned about was the process of hiring contractors and the role in development. Contractors basically do all of the physical work for the department. The department comes up with the plans and they come up with ideas and they basically make this ginormous instruction manual for the contractors. Then the contractors bid for who can do it, and contractors are for everything. There's like plumbing contractors, masonry contractors, and so on. There's so many different types. And so then once they get that, then my mentor's job is to go and make sure that they're following everything as planned and making sure that it's all getting done on time and correctly. Basically, for what I'm expecting for next semester, I'm going to work on my original works project, which is going to basically consist of me choosing what I think are the top 10 or 15 most successful parks in the U.S. I'm going to analyze, compare, and contrast them, and then from that, take the elements that I think are the most important and apply those to my final product, which I got to select a lot of land that's near the school, and I'm going to design my own park on that land, like a plan of it. I'm going to continue learning about the processes of design and development and like how to interact with contractors, as well as building more connections and relationships with people in the department. And the one other thing that I really plan on doing is to learn more about the recreation side through my part-time job at the athletic center. On that side, I'm focusing on recreation, while in ISM, I'm studying the park side. So that basically concludes what I've done so far this year, and thank you for your time.